Mikhail, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, dude? Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you.
So we were just in the middle of a conversation. I want to keep it rolling. We're talking about how everybody went like UGC like crazy with their advertising, and it's all I feel like I see now is like UGC and static ads with some call outs, some text call outs. So I think we're going to see a big push back towards like the Mad Men era, polished ads, people not being as tied to like what's my ROAS on this one creative. Where are you at on that whole thing?
I actually agree with you, and we've changed strategy completely because of that. I mean, there was like Billow had its moment. So first we have the micro influencer. Let's start there. The micro influencer who, in the golden age would charge like $50 for a video. They shout it out and it actually produced some returns. And then you actually see like some of these people who were charging a relatively low amount moving the needle quite a bit, right? And so that was tight. But then everybody became an influencer, especially during COVID, right? So then we were forced to become influencers and UGC creators. That's all we had to do. So then you see this massive influx of people. Then the rates of influencers and creators go up significantly. Like, why the heck are we paying 5,000 plus for a video? And now it's like, I don't know. It was weird. Like people were so focused on the like top line metrics. You saw this, like the followers, the engagement rate, great. But I think that there was still a miss between like the product fit and how the story was told. And at that same time, as those like costs of influencers were rising, the awareness from the consumer was rising. So then fast forward just a little bit, then you have Billo. People caught on. You needed the user generated content. Everybody is an influencer, so it doesn't matter who's talking about it at this time. And Billo does a really good job of creating user generated content and that style. But then like everything looked kind of stale. And that's when I start to see, I think you're seeing it too, where it's going back the other way, where it's like, okay, a little bit more production helps. Well, for one, all of these influencers did raise the bar of doing user generated content. The bar goes up as to what that looks like. Cameras got better on your phone, like the whole thing. So it has to be a little bit more polished. But now I think that mindset on the consumer is like, oh, everybody's an influencer. I'm used to seeing this UGC. So now as an agency, we actually kind of pulled back significantly on working with micro and mid tier influencers and instead just started, we talked about this, the like creator network and stuff. I don't know if I shared that Excel sheet with you, but Google Sheet. Nobody actually uses Excel. And where we just started recruiting all these people who created stuff, got their fee, and we didn't really care at that point it didn't really care at that point if they were posting it on their page, it would help. But honestly, it's like it performed better in ads. We needed it at scale. We needed it kind of cheap, like those types of things, and just to like test it. And along with that, now like you said, now everybody's doing that. It's the only thing you see. So now when something comes more produced, that's when you're stopping. Like I no longer want to see you like bending over right in front of your camera with your like LaCroix telling me what it is. Like do the really cool workout video and then like open it up at the end and take a drink. And I'm like, oh shoot, that was sorry, that was really long winded.
No, it's good. No, but it's like heightened storytelling versus just this obsession with a hook rate, right? So I'm all for hooks, but we've gone off the deep end. And I always say, I'm like, I could light my hair on fire and run through the mall, and everybody would pay attention, but nobody's going to buy shit from me. They're going to be like, that guy's crazy. And I think a lot of ads went this like, light your hair on fire and then sell the protein or whatever. So I have like that of actually thinking about a story and telling it all the way through, and making sure that that's hitting the right people. Coming back to what you said about the micro influencer and the mid tier influencer, a lot of their engagement too is fugazi. Like everybody is just commenting to support each other. You go, girl. You get it, buddy. And it's all fake engagement. And it's breaking out the difference between you get impressions and do you have influence, right? Oh, you're just like a good looking person trying to sell me some gut biome tea versus you're a like versus like if you're some sort of health practitioner coming on with maybe 1,500 followers and you're like, I tell every patient to get this tea, it might help, but blah blah blah, a little more subtle. It's like I guarantee you the health practitioner with like 2,000 followers moves more units than the person with 40,000 followers who takes a photo with it. And like you said, consumer awareness, all the consumers know you're just trying to sell me crap. Every third post is a sales thing. So using those to move on to feed. Now there's something else I think that's interesting though with the mega influencers happening. I want to get your thoughts on this. I think when you go to too big of an influencer, I think one, you can get a spike, but sometimes you start competing. The brand connection between the consumer, you're competing with the influencer now for the emotional connection. That if that person is where their connection is, that like your brand can kind of get lost in the wash. I don't want the influencer to outshine the product sometimes, which is like again, it's a balance, but I don't know. Have you experienced that or any thoughts, I guess, on that in particular?
Yeah. So I guess I don't know, I don't really consider a lot of the people that we've worked with, like on the macro level, to be like real influencers. Like in this, like what you're talking about, of like, it's more of just like a placement and then mass awareness. So one that we worked with, I won't mention the name, but it's like TikTok influencer, 20, like probably 25 million followers, whatever. But all they do is like the wife and the husband just prank each other with like paintball guns and stuff. And so we did like a product placement there. It kind of fit with the concept that we were going with. And we didn't actually get the the big numbers back from the or I'm sorry, the sales numbers back from the client. But what we did see was like the video got 8 million views. So when we calculated the CPMs versus what we paid, and you can imagine what we paid, it was like got like $12.50 CPMs. Not terrible actually, but it was still like a lot of money. And like, I mean, nobody was like, oh, this sold a bunch of product. And then when we look into the comments, like everybody was just kind of shitting on it, to be honest. They're like, oh, they just put it doesn't make any sense. Right. So perhaps that's an example of that. There's so many people now with like 10 million followers. Like it's kind of hard to quantify that. But then there's another gal, that we worked with on a regular basis, Victoria Shop. And she's, I'd venture to say she's kind of a friend of mine, but like Victoria Shop, when we started working with her, she had maybe a little under 1 million followers, not necessarily macro to like the mega macro you're talking about. But man, all she does is cook. And we gave her a cooking board or a chopping board that was like $200, which is way too much for a chopping board in my view. But man, that sold a lot of chopping boards. So I think like it's kind of weird that we still have to talk about like product fit and brand fit with these types of people. I think you tweeted something about this recently, I want to say, but it's about like all these like mega influencers, like the Kevin Harts of the world. Like all of a sudden, like everybody has a tequila brand or something. I think that's kind of similar. It's like, what are you doing with a tequila brand? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Your whole thing is there's so many things like that. Yeah, where people are just it's like hopping on the product trend. Kevin Hart's about health and the health is wealth and this and that, and also get drunk with like
What do you think about him and Fabletics?
I think it's an absolute con. There's like I think I think subscription shorts are a con. Like the
Okay.
whole idea that you need to buy athletic gear on subscription is
Yeah.
wild to me. I think most
So I'm a sucker. I'm a member, but keep going.
yeah, I think I don't know, in the fitness space, I have some views that are probably different. I don't think fitness is a time to show off at the gym and worry about a coordinated outfit. I think fitness should be
Yeah.
you 40 minutes, get it done. It's not for shine and the clothing's not going to people aren't going to notice the clothing, they're going to notice if you're in shape or not, so just get to work. It's kind of my
Yeah.
opinion with that Fabletics. I also clothing industry has some in fast fashion I have some qualms with like
Yeah, for sure.
on an ethical side of like, but I still buy it. So I'm like, this stuff was probably made, if I'm being honest, the material probably comes from a slave camp in China and I wear it still. I'm not going to sit here and say like I don't, but I'm like, so I have a
Right.
lot of thoughts about all that, you know?
Well, I like that that gets taken into consideration there. I am a sucker and I am a Fabletics member. The model is something different to talk about, but like him and Fabletics doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But what actually does make a lot of sense to me is like his partnership with Chase.
Hmm.
And do you ever watch his comedy stand-ups?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember the old one where it's like, oh, the thing about my money is like the money's in the savings. It takes 3 days, like da da da, and that's why you can't party with like I don't know LeBron James or something like that. So that alone is such an iconic like I think from his stand up like such an iconic bit where once he starts doing stuff with Chase, like there is a little bit of a connection there. It's like, oh, okay, for whatever reason, or it's just the way that Chase decides to tell the story makes a lot more sense. You know what I mean? Especially if they want to like kind of acquire customers in a different demographic than what they're used to. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. That one makes a lot of sense. Fabletics doesn't make sense to me. The tequila doesn't make sense to me. I think that there is just a lot lost. The thing is with the tequila, it's his though, but
I think with brands and people or brands and issues or anything, I'm always like, I mean, I give brands this advice more times than not. And I always say, does it fit the ethos of your company? Like, if that issue or that thing or that product you're selling or the founder, is it truly something that that person is passionate about and you want to promote? Two, are when we're talking about things like, I don't know, like certain brand issues, for instance, are you just trying to chime in or are you giving people like usable information? So I'll give you an example. I interviewed this guy on the podcast. He has this company, Casa with a K, and it's kind of like an Airbnb competitor. He's Ukrainian. The Ukrainian war starts. He comes out and his brand comes out and says, anyone displaced from this has free housing. I'm a Ukrainian. I came over from Ukraine as a child. Anybody who does this can come here. Also, the brand came out and said, give to these charities 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I was like, this is one of the few times, for instance, when I see like in a crisis, perfect alignment where like
Yeah.
nobody questions the motives of that. So I'm always like,
Yeah.
to take that over on the other side to an advertising side of things where it's like you're saying, it's like, oh, Kevin Hart talking about financial literacy when he has a bit on that, it aligns perfectly. But where can companies work and influencers like what actually is aligned with their companies when issues come up or when ads come
Mhm.
up or products come up? And is it a good fit? Because I feel like it'll fall flat if it's not, or if somebody's trying to like
Yeah.
capitalize on an atrocity. That's a whole other issue. But
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, I think that there still isn't really enough when you're really working with an influencer like that. I don't think that there's enough attention being paid to it. And then also, I think that we're looking in pretty small windows as to the impact of those pieces of content. But yeah, man, like back to kind of what we started with. I do see like a higher production value. I mean, you see it like with podcasts. Remember when we started podcasts and it was like, oh, I put out the audio and people listened. But now we have to put together a whole ass like TV show basically. You're doing it right now with the iPhone thingy that you're what was it? The Move, iPhone Motion?
I was trying to set up the continuous cam. You're right, though. The expectation, I think audience expectation is just way higher. So that comes from camera
Dude.
quality, that comes from show quality, things you're competing with. Anybody watching this on YouTube, I apologize for my camera quality today, but no, it is really that where we have to go take this. It's got to not only be on all the audio platforms, but we got to make video, then we got to make snippets. And I think my hypothesis around this is people aren't commuting as much just in general. So you just have way
Mhm.
less podcast listenership and way more people like I have YouTube running in the background or I get clips now. So I used to look at, for instance, with the podcast, I would say, oh, what are our downloads, right? Okay, cool. And now I'm like, what were total plays? All video snippets, videos,
Mm.
downloads.
That's smart. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's my real metric I care about, total plays. I've been at the same Apple subscription. Like we get like one or two new followers on Apple a month. Like I don't, it's impossible. So I'm like, why am I even gonna?
Does anybody even unsubscribed to my own podcast because I was
Yeah,
like
it's taking up too much memory.
it was taking up too much memory and then like I didn't want the notification.
That's real.
You know what I mean? And also it's like, I don't do all my own podcast promotion. And so like, oh, okay, great. So like I saw the Instagram like video go up from Michael, who's managing a lot of that. It's like, oh, I guess my podcast is live now. So I can go like listen to it if I wanted to. But yeah, dude, I don't know if anybody I heard that like the top 1% of podcasts, and I could be butchering this, but the top 1% of podcasts are only getting like 2,000 downloads a month.
Wild. Yeah, it's I do know I'm going to misquote this and this is why I have a rule, no on-air math, but I'm going to break it. It is something like 95% of downloads are in the top like 0.3% of podcasts. Everyone's listening to the
Mm-hmm.
same 10 shows in their niche.
Yeah,
And
right.
like our show, like this show, listeners, the cats out of the bag. It's like thousands of downloads a month, not tens of thousands, thousands of downloads per month. We have 200 something episodes, and it's like okay, and we're going to be in the top 5% of podcasts, like whatever. But we're still so far away from the top level, right? So
Yeah,
it's like okay, I just see that as anyone who listens and rocks with the show, cool. Hey, share it with one more person, please, and then we'll just kind of build it slowly. But it's very interesting to see what breaks through, what doesn't, on that regard. So media is changing, man. I think the bar, yeah, the consumer expectation is just higher. I think across the board.
100%. You're pretty consistent though. Like, well, I'm not sure about the full length podcast, your consistency there, but every time I open up TikTok, I see you talking about, it looks like you're podcasting.
Yeah.
Um, how often are you putting out like a full episode on your podcast?
So I use a producer and she books me out where I'll record probably 2 or 3 a week that are
Oh,
all
really?
scheduled. Some weeks more than others, not every episode goes live, unfortunately. Sometimes the content's just bad, like candidly speaking. So there's just
Oh, how have you handled that?
yeah, it's been interesting. So if the content isn't up to snuff, and I'll tell people, sorry, like either right away, I tell them, like, say they come on and they're like calling into the show on AirPods. And I'm like, we told you a week
Yeah.
ago to get a mic. We gave you a link for a mic. We have to reschedule. Like, we can't do this. And then I've offered probably 10 people the opportunity to re record because I'm like, I don't know what it is. Something just didn't hit in this. Are you okay to re record? Because I like the person. Only one person's taken me up on it. So, and her
Mm,
episode turned out great afterwards. So that's the only
yeah.
thing. But it's just honestly, most people do the show and then they forget that they even did it like 5 seconds later, which is like interesting.
Yeah.
They're on to the next show. And if the guest has any if they're like promoting a book or something, you're just a podcast number and they've booked 7 podcasts that day and their energy could be low. Like there's so many things where I'm like, "Oh, I want to talk to you about X, but you're turning this into like a commercial for the book." Okay.
Yeah.
And you're not going to help promote
Yeah.
it and whatever. So I kind of go back and forth on that. But yeah, we use the producer, we book, I don't know, we've done 250 or so. And then they just go into like a editing
Yeah.
queue. So it's a grind for sure. Let's give a shout out here to your show and talk a little bit about that. What is the show that you host? And I know it's a little different with regards to subject matter, but
Yeah, yeah. And thank you, by the way. The show's called Oversharing, and I want to say that when I started the name Oversharing, there wasn't 50 of them, but so if you look up like Oversharing with Mikhail Alfon, then that comes up. But really, man, I wish I had the discipline like you did to just like hire a producer. I'm going to do this interview. I've just kind of gotten to the point in my podcasting and my career in general, or maybe just like in my life. So just to like be real about it, like I just don't want to talk about the same thing and I want to talk about whatever I'm interested in at that moment. So, on one hand, I might go through a slew of people where we talk about how they came to faith. And then on the other hand, I might talk to a slew of people about like just boxing. And then another handful of people where it's about business. So it really just kind of goes with my mood, which is, I don't know. That's where I've been with like any of the content that I create now. But similar to you, I think we have 250 plus episodes over like 5 years, however long it's been. And we started doing a lot of video with it, started putting it on YouTube finally, like that whole thing. So that's really humbling because now everybody knows that only 11 people listen to it. But like, but it's been a lot of fun. And I just, at the end of the day, for me, like, the whole podcasting thing is more of like a creative outlet for me than I'm me using it as a tool or to put myself in a position of like thought leadership, and especially as the person hosting. I'm not trying to be that, but yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say that sometimes I'll invite certain people on just to get like free consulting with them, like,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's a great networking tool, but like, I just don't have it in me to do that thing right now because I just have so many other things on my mind. So I'm considering like taking a pause on that and actually starting one with my wife about just parenting now. So it's like, I think that could be fun. And it's something I'm really interested in and what I'm talking about all the time with anyways. And my wife is like way cooler than I am. So, maybe that, I don't know. Like I said, it's more of a,
And you'll have the chemistry, right? You have the chemistry. Now, on the podcast, what's interesting, and a lot of people ask me, and a lot of people listening are probably like trying to get their business to start a podcast. I have my thoughts on this, and I'll go after you, but I'm interested to know, like, has it positively affected your business, right? Has it led to business? Have you been able to be like, oh yeah, that one guest ended up becoming a customer? Or has it kind of just been like, I don't know, I think so.
in seasons it has, but I will go ahead and say that not one founder that I've like had on had become a client. But what it does do is it kind of adds legitimacy to like my pitch and who I am as an agency owner. And like, so if I talk about certain things and they see that I'm active on this and like have good edits, like have that sort of thing, then it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And hopefully, and what I do believe that it's doing is, we've had a couple like, I've had a couple prospects like look me up on Instagram or whatever it is, and them saying it's like, hey, like I liked what you said about XYZ. You know what I mean? So I think that it's helped in that regard. But no, I think the podcast itself, no. But other aspects of like the personal brand, absolutely yes.
Yeah, that is very similar. I think anyone who wants to start a podcast, if you're listening to a business, if you have a business, you want to start it, it's a labor of love. Like you have to do it because you want it to be an outlet. You want to meet people because it will help. Like, yeah, it's helped my business by way of meeting people. Like you're saying, the clips getting out, they're just seeing your face more. So when you do maybe cross paths with them, they're able to be like, oh, what's up? Or like, I went to Expo West and, I had interviewed 20 people who were at the show. So then they're all like, "Oh, what up? I know you." Like, okay, cool. So then we're just talking. But I think a lot of people have this misconception that they can do 10 episodes and they'll be Joe Rogan. And it's like, it is such a grind. And if you don't have
Yeah.
complete host buy-in, and what I mean by that is a lot of people, like we launched a podcast done for you kind of podcast system. And I was like, this is amazing. I can just take my system, people, I'll get you producer, I'll book your guests, we'll edit it, we'll give you clips, blah, blah, blah. You know what ended up happening? Founders don't show up. They don't show up. They're like, I saw you had another call. Sorry, can't do it. So now we were stuck
Yeah.
rescheduling people like crazy. And then I was like, I got to can this whole thing because we're working on a produced show count for the money. And you keep punting episodes and we keep burning bridges with guests. And I'm just like, oh, unless that was such a good lesson for me to be like, if somebody really wants to start a show, they'll start a show and they'll do it. They won't look
Yeah.
for an easy button. They might get hire up in
Yeah.
a contract one part of it, but there's no easy button to content, which is an interesting thing to see kind of that comes out of that.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. It's funny too how many people, you probably get this all the time, people asking about your podcast, your agency, or anything that you do. They want to pick your brain for like 2.5 hours about exactly how you do it, the equipment that you get, yada yada yada, and then like crickets or 3 episodes that never got released or something like that. And it's just, I don't know. It does take a lot of love, but I do have that for this format.
Oh, that's real. Moving on a little bit, I do want to talk to you about, earn your sunrise. I guess one, explaining that content that you put out, kind of the mission behind it. Yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah, honestly, I think I'm going to distill this a lot. For a long time, I was like, it doesn't matter what time you earn your sunrise. But for the listener that doesn't know what that is, basically, I've been getting up around 5 o'clock. It's so funny telling you this, Jordan, because I remember distinctly this tweet that you put. It's like the weirdest flex that entrepreneurs have is getting up early.
Yeah.
And like, I should like just, I was floored. I was like, this mother, like, but it's so true. I'm like, why am I doing this? But like, anyway, that's beside the point. So for like 4 or 5 years, I've been getting up like around 5 a.m., getting to the gym by 6 o'clock, and just getting after it. And honestly, at one point I just did this hashtag like earn your sunrise. And it kind of caught on for a while, like enough to where people in like, in Colombia were using it, across the United States, like this sort of thing. And I was like, hey, like, let me trademark this real quick and then put it on some t-shirts just so that like, I don't know if I'm going to build anything big from it, but it's a pretty sweet phrase, I think. So, if like the New York Giants wanted to put that on their West Coast t-shirts type of thing, because you have to wake up early to watch all of those, like that's cool, then they'd have to pay a premium for it. But honestly, the idea behind that is not taking any day for granted and getting up early and showing gratitude in the form of work, to be honest with you. Because when you're really grateful for the life that you have, like you are going to work at it every single day. When you're grateful for the legs that you have, you might run a little bit more, or just your health in general. Not everybody gets to do that. Not everybody has the freedom to do that or the physical capability to do that. So it's earning your sunrise, the sunrise being something that comes up every day, and just not taking that for granted in any sort of way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm with you. I believe if you're gifted a body that works, use it. So that's it.
Use it.
It is interesting. The 5 a.m. flex one is funny. So I get up early, right? I'm with you. I get up at 5, but I always found I actually dug into the data and like waking. What I didn't like was people who tweeted like they would boil things down to like wake up early equals millionaire type of thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
And I went and researched. I'm like, do most successful people get up early? And then I found that actually waking up early correlates way more with working minimum wage and labor jobs. So like construction workers.
Wow.
So it's like every construction worker gets up at because they have to be there for sunrise, people who work on farms, everything. And I was like, oh, like this is such not like from a hustle bro perspective and what's been like put out on Twitter, it's just not actually real for like 99% of people who are getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go drive an hour to like work on a construction site at sunrise.
Yeah.
And it was like that
Yeah.
was more so my thing when I was like, whoa, it correlates way more with being in a minimum wage job or like it was an interesting finding on that regard.
You know what though? I love your content because you speak the truth about things, and like the thing with the 5 a.m. thing. Honestly, I think that to myself all the time. I'm like, nobody cares if I'm up at like 5 o'clock in the morning until I stop doing it, and people are like, no, your consistency, man. I'm like, damn it. Like keep doing that again, but yeah, no, the way that you say things is like it's true. Like, we were kind of talking about influencership, podcastship, and this whole the type of person that maybe you and I are, getting up early, working out consistently, working hard, believing in working hard, and having a certain POV. Like we kind of fit a lot of the like agency bro things, but I feel like we're similar. It's just like, damn it. Like sometimes I'm that guy, but I really don't care to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? So I find it entertaining. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I try to do this, and I think anyone who is listening who maybe battles this or is thinking about personal brand, which is just a funny way of saying whatever you put on the internet,
Yep.
is and I say this to the listener, not to you, Mikhail, but it's like to the listener, you are more than the activities you do, and don't let them become your identity. Liking
Hmm.
whiskey is not an identity. Working out is not an identity. Like it's just that to me is the part that I have to distill and pull out to be like, I am more than my workout. I am more than waking up early. I am more than the agency. Like those are things I do, but they're not who I am. And I think that they get conflated a lot in the space when people are like, I'm a hustle and grind person and I like whatever, like black coffee is a personality and like have more to yourself and accept those other parts of
Yeah.
you know? So that to me has been the part that I'm like, I actively try to like, I try to look at myself and acknowledge, like, okay, when is that activity becoming an identity marker for me? You know, an interesting thing to go through, right? Like,
I completely agree. It's funny. I can't wait for we've been trying to like maybe get together in Santa Monica or if you're down here, and for the day that happens, like over a beer, because I can tell even more so now how much you actually think about this stuff. And it's just like all this stuff, it matters because we need to eat and we need to build a good reputation and build business for what we decided how we decided to live our lives. But like at the end of the day, it's like none of it matters at the same time. So like, you know what I mean? Like are you engaged? I want to say that I saw you get engaged.
I am, yes, yes, I'm engaged.
Amazing. Congratulations, man. When was that?
Getting married in February.
Married in February. Let's go. I love that. So exactly. So like your fiance is not going to love you more or less because you get more followers. You know what I mean? So
That's why I think, man, external validation is this generation's heroin, though. So it
mm,
becomes this constant quest for likes and tell me I'm good enough and look how cool I am and I need to be on every trend and then you go into the real world for 2 weeks. Like I challenge everyone listening to this, turn off this show, go 2 weeks without social media. Just go delete all the apps, 2 weeks. Can you do 10 days? Just 10 days, 10 business days, even take it on the weekends. Like there's so
yeah,
much actually going on in the world and
yeah,
we as marketers spend so much time on social. We're in this like people having little Twitter like talking shit to each other that they would never say to each other's face. And it's wild. Like how rude it's just this whole world is not real.
it's
You
crazy.
know, I was telling you
And also take that social media break, but don't tell anybody that you're doing it.
that yes, that's the other thing. Like don't just do it. And you'll be
Yeah.
surprised. There's a whole, marketers who like to say this thing is like go touch grass. I actually believe that. Go outside, go to a library,
Mm,
pick up a book, just do something without needing external validation from it. Read a business book
yeah.
and don't tell anybody. Go to like it's impossible. It's impossible. So I'm that's what I want to do more of personally. And like I was telling you before we hit record, like there are sobering moments as in life that you go through. And I was I got called in for jury duty for a murder case. And I'm going to tell you, like, Twitter stuff doesn't matter. like,
Yeah,
like it just at the end of the day, we're all going to be dust in the ground 150 years from now, and nobody's going to care about your tweets. So it's like, oh, you have those moments of just like, whoa, right? There's a real world out there with things happening, and it's kind of good to be brought down to, I guess, a level of societal sobriety to be like, right, this is really what's going on in the world, and I need to just check myself, you know?
100%.
Yeah, it's now before I do let you go, I do want to talk a little bit about Blue Light. Run me through what you guys do, where you're at, just if anyone's listening, what are the things and the companies you help?
Definitely. So, Blue Light Media is a creative marketing agency. We work with a lot of e-commerce brands in the consumer packaged goods, primarily like natural products. So, protein bars, energy drinks. It's funny you brought up. What did you bring up? That something for your belly. I was like, you're talking about like, yeah, gut biome stuff. You're talking about like half of the influencers we've worked with, probably. So those types of brands. We're based here in Orange County, and honestly, a company comes to us, they need content, they need social strategy, paid media strategy. That's all the things that we help with. And we've been doing it for, it'll be 10 years in June. So I'm still kind of far away from it, but it's been a long time.
Awesome. That's awesome. And go check them out. You guys product photography really kicks ass too. So definitely
Thank you,
definitely
man.
worth checking out if you got a brand. Mikhail, man, thanks for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you so much, man.
All right, everybody. That's it for this episode. As always, hit like, share, subscribe, all those good buttons at the bottom of your podcast or YouTube app, and I'll catch you next time.